today we are going to start the movie Greystone Park that came in 2012, and let's do this movie's full movie review and facts. And start with its overview and synopsis. Greystone Park is a psychological horror film presented in a found footage style. It's directed by Shane Stones and a filmmaker Oliver Stone. The film is set in the infamous Greystone Park, a psychiatric hospital in New Jersey, which has a reputation for being haunted and haunted by past tragedies. The story follows a group of young filmmakers who decide to explore the abandoned hospital, intending to document paranormal activity as they dive deeper into the derelict institution. They encounter increasingly disturbing phenomena that blur their line between hallucination and reality, leading to terror and chaos. If we talk about review and analysis, atmosphere and tone, Greystone Park excels at creating a tense, claustrophobic atmosphere. The abandoned hospital setting is both early authentic and unsettling, with decaying walls, dark corridors, and unsettling noises. The film's tone is dark, oppressive, and unsettling, effectively immersing viewers in a world of psychological dread. And if we talk about found footage style, the movie employs a typically found footage approach, handheld camera work, shaky shots, and naturalistic lighting to evoke realism. This style high-end suspense, making audience feels like they are part of investigators and let's go on. And if we talk about themes and symbolism of madness, reality, the film explores themes of mental illness, trauma, and the thin boundary separating sanity from insanity, the hospital's dark history, and the supernatural elements symbolizes represent fears and suppressed memory, haunting and guilt, the ghost and disturbing apparitions are representations of guilt, grief, and unresolved trauma. The from the past, both personal and institutional. If we talk about the power of fear, the film suggests that Fear can be as much psychological as supernatural, with hallucination and paranoia escalating as the character lost grip on reality. And if we talk about character development and performance, the character archetype feel skeptic and believer, and skeptic who become a believer, and a skeptic who is overwhelmed, while performances are generally adequate for a found footage film. Some critics feel that character development is secondary to the atmosphere and scars. And if we talk about cinematography and visuals, the visual effectively depict a decayed hospital. Shots emphasizing claustrophobia and decay. The film uses dim lighting, shadows, and sudden flashes of supernatural phenomenon to evoke fear. And if we talk about sound design and music, sound plays a crucial role. Creaking floors, distant screams, and unsettling noises build tension. The soundtrack is minimal, relying heavily on ambient sound, which enhances the realism and read. And if we talk about criticism and reception, Greystone Park received mixed reviews. It was praised for its authentic setting and atmosphere tension, but criticized for its predictable plot, over reliance on jump scares, and shaky camera work. Some viewers found it more effective as a mood piece than as a narrative. And if we talk about interesting facts and behind the scene, what make a little no 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 no. talk about interesting facts and behind the scene. Based on real events and location, the film was shot entirely on location at the actual Greystone for psychiatric hospital, which closed in 2008. The real hospital has a notorious of patients abuse death and paranormal legends which inspired the film's story. Director's background: Scene Stone, known for his documentary and her true psychological horror social commentary hinting at the diversity of mental health treatment. Okay, talk about inspiration and themes. The film was inspired by stories of paranormal activity, ghost sighting, and urban legends associated with the hospital. It also touches on themes of mental health institutions, abuse, and social neglect. Production challenges: filming in actual abandoned hospital urges logistical challenges including safety guards and restricted access. The crew had to navigate dilapidated structure which added authenticity but also risk. If we talk about authentic setting and props, the filmmakers utilized real hospital equipment, graffiti, and decay to enhance realism, avoiding overlay stills or artificial looking sets. We talk about marketing and distribution. Greystone Park was released directly to DVD and digital platforms, primarily targeting horror enthusiasts and fans of found footage film. And if we talk about connection, We talk about inspiration and themes. The film was inspired by stories of paranormal activity, ghost sighting, and urban legend associated with the hospital. It also touches on themes of mental health, institutional abuse, and social neglect. We talk about production challenges, filming in the actual abandoned hospital pose logistical challenges including safety hazards and restricted access. The crew had to navigate dilapidated structures with added authenticity but also just we talk about authentic setting and the filmmaker utilized real hospital equipment, graphic, and decades to enhance realism, avoiding overlay. The stage are artificial looking sets. Talk about marketing and distribution. Greystone Park was released directly to DVD and digital platform, primarily targeting horror enthusiasts and fans of found footage film. If we talk about connection to paranormal lore, some of the supernatural elements in the movie draw from local legends and reports of ghost sighting at Greystone Park, adding a layer of authenticity and mystery. If we talk about critical reception and audience, the film has garnered a cult following among horror fans, especially those interested in haunted location and psychological horror. Critics often cite its effective atmosphere but criticize its predictable story arc. It has themes of institutional neglect. The movie subtly critiques the treatment of mental health patients in the past, reflecting real historical abuse at such institutions. The familiar Themes and influence. The film is often compared to classic like The Player which present paranormal activity and adrenaline sharing themes of supernatural horror and psychological terror. They have got additional facts and trivia. The hospital's real estate include patients abuse, tragic death, and reports of paranormal activity which the film draws upon authenticity. Some scenes were shot during nighttime with the crew using portable lighting to highlight the decay and create shadow. The film's director Greystone has stated that some of the supernatural phenomena depicted are inspired by real accounts from former hospital staff and visitors. The film was a part of a wave of horror movies exploring haunted asylums and abandoned institutions, reflecting social fears about mental health and institutional abuse. The film emphasizes the psychological impact of isolation and trauma, portraying the hospital as a symbol of growth, mental illness, and social neglect. And we talk about conclusion. Greystone Park is a moody, atmospheric horror film that leverages its real world location and history is to craft a tense, unsettling experience while it may not reinvent the found footage and its success in immersing viewers in its haunted, decaying world, provoking reflection on mental health, guilt, and the supernatural. Let's talk about more. If we talk about Greystone Park, then following in depth. If we talk about introduce and overview, Greystone Park is a long film that seeks to blend urban legend, real world history, and supernatural horror into a visual experience directed by Sean Stone. The film takes us inside the decaying remains of the infamous Greystone Park psychiatric hospital located in New Jersey, which has long been the subject of local legends, ghost stories, and historical controversy. The film narrative follows a group of young filmmakers and panel of investigation who venture into an abandoned hospital with camera rolling, intending to document paranormal phenomena. What begins as an exploration of the haunted site quickly spirals into a terrifying ordeal as the supernatural forces and psychological breakdown threatens their real. If we talk about historical context of Greystone Park, before diving into the film specific, it's vital to understand the real world history of the hospital that inspired it. Founded in 1876, the facility was initially established as the New Jersey State Lunatic Asylum number 3. Over the decades, it expanded and was renewed several times, becoming Greystone Park psychiatric hospital and epitome of purpose and function. It served as a treatment center for mental health patients, housing thousands of its operational years, including the most several mentally ill and those suffering from trauma, psychosis, or institutionalization. Comfort, controversy, and abuse throughout its Greystone was infamous for neglect, abuse, and inhuman treatment of patients, reports of overcrowding regarding its treatment and experiment. Treatment have surfaced casting a dark shadow over its legacy. Closure and decay. The hospital officially closed in 2008 after decades of declining patients numbers and shifting mental health policies. The abandoned site became a magnet for urban explorers, paranormal enthusiasts, and filmmakers. Legend paranormal law, rumors of ghost sighting, unexplained noises, and supernatural phenomena have persisted for years, fueled by stories from former staff, patients, and registers. We talk about detailed plot and narrative analysis. If we talk about Greystone Park opens with typical found footage, set up a group of 5 friends, camera person, investigators, skeptic believers, and a local guide arrive at the deserted hospital. The goal is to document paranormal activity but also to explore the history of the site. The progression of the film. Initial exploration. The scene begins with casually footage walking through hallway, filming graphic covered walls and commenting on the four buildings' decay. Early scenes customizes the atmosphere, dust, broken furniture, rusted equipment, and the oppressive silence, unsettling encounters as they deeper strain. Start to have constant noises, clicking, light, and fleeting set of figures that can implies some scars, creaking sound, and sudden camera movements to high-end tension. Supernatural manifestation. The supernatural phenomenon escalate apparitions, disembodied voice, and deserted places. Some scenes depict ghostly figures resembling former patients or staff, adding an unsettling layer of realism. It was psychological restoration. Tension rise among the group as Ronnie shares in characters begin to experience hallucination, and some become increasingly unstable, blurring the lines between reality, and hallucination. The holographic can escape the climate results and nightmare sequence, which supernatural entity seems to take control of the environment the survivors frantically. That escape capturing their descent into chaos on camera. Not all make it out alive, some are possessed or are driven to madness. We talk about themes and symbolism. Insanity, the hospital itself is a metaphor for mental illness and environment where reality is fragile. Subjective, the supernatural manifests symbolizes represent trauma and guilt. Institutional horror, the film subtly critiques the state of mental health institutions, abuse, neglect, and dehumanization by depicting the hospital as a haunted vessel of suffering, guilt, and regret. Many of the apparition and supernatural events can be interpreted as manifestation of guilt, either personal or collective, about past atrocities committed within me. The hospital fear of the unknown. The film taps into primal fears of death, madness, and the unseen force lurking in abandoned spaces. Technical aspect and filmmaking style, cinematography and visuals. The film's aesthetic relies heavily on natural lighting, shadows, and detailed filming. Architecture, the handheld camera provide immediacy and realism, immersing viewers in the character's perspective, use of shaky footage, quick cuts, and the use of shaky footage, quick cuts, and low light scene create disorientation, mirroring the character's psychological states. We talk about sound design and music. With minimalistic soundtrack with ambient sound, dripping water, distant thunder, echoing footsteps builds suspense. We talk about sound effect, like whisper screams and sudden noises are used to startle viewers and increase tension. We talk about editing and pacing. The film's editing emphasizes sound and is often cutting between normal exploration and moments of supernatural disturbance. The pacing is deliberate, allowing tension to build gradually before erupting into chaos. We talk about critical reception and audience response. Greystone Park received mixed reviews, with many praising its atmospheric tension, authentic setting, and effective use of real-world history. Critics appreciated its attempt to combine horror with social commentary, but some found the plot predictable and the found footage style overused. If we talk about strength, authentic location, atmospheric read, compelling historical backdrop, effective sound design. We talk about weakness. Production, jump scares, shaky camera work, casing, disorientation, lack of character development, and a somewhat glitched plot structure. Despite its flaws, the movie has cultivated a cult following among horror enthusiasts, especially those interested in haunted location and institutional horror. We talk about in-depth facts and behind-the-scenes insight, filming location and authenticity. The film was shot entirely on location inside the real Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital, which are listed in a semi-derelict state during filming. The filmmaker wanted to preserve authenticity, so they used real hospital equipment, graphite, and decayed to create a immersive experience the director over the director's vision. Stone aimed to create a horror film that was both terrifying and thought-provoking. He wanted to explore the dark aspect of mental health treatment and the lingering trauma associated with such institutions. We talk about in-depth fact and behind the scene insight. Filming location and authenticity. The film was shot entirely on location inside the real Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital, which was still in semi-derelict state during filming. The filmmaker wanted to preserve so they usually hospital equipment, graphite, and decay to create an immersive experience. The directors, Eliza, Stone aimed to create a horror film that was both terrifying and thought-provoking. He wanted to explore the darker aspect of mental health treatment and the lingering trauma associated with such institution. If it was inspiration from actual paranormal reports, the supernatural elements in the film are inspired by numerous reports from urban explorers and farm staff who claim to witness ghostly apparitions, unearthly noises, and strange senses while exploring the hospital. Peter was challenging during production. Living in the abandoned hospital for significant safety that unstable floors, exposed wiring, broken glass, and mold. The crew had to navigate carefully, which added to the authenticity but also the risk of accident. We talk about real world legend and paranormal lore. The legend suggests that the hospital is haunted by the spirits of former patients who suffered and died there. Some ghost sighting include shadow figures, mysterious footsteps, and voice. These stories contributed to the early atmosphere in the film. It about cultural and social commentary. If we talk about cultural and social commentary, in horror, the film subtly critiques the historical mistreatment of mental health patients and social neglect. It raises question about the ethics of institutionalization and the human cost of mental health policies. Audience and cult following. While the film was not a box office hit again, population on Narus forum and among paranormal enthusiasts, its realistic setting and the country state appeal to you seeking a more immersive horror experiences. The influence and similar films. Greystone Park is often compared to other haunted asylum movies like Session 9 2001, The Taking of River Logan, and Asylum. Its focus on mental health institutions and real execution makes it stand out in the genre. About symbolic elements, and if you talk about DK and June represent the physical, spiritual decay of the hospital path. Ghostly figures embody unresolved trauma and guilt. And if we talk about dark corridors and empty rooms, symbolize isolation, fear, and the unknown. If we talk about cultural impact and legacy, though not mainstream, Greystone Park has influenced independent horror filmmakers interested in blending documentary style storytelling with supernatural horror. It emphasizes on authenticity and social critics sets it apart from conventional ghost stories. And if we talk about cultural impact and legacy, though not mainstream, Greystone Park has been named horror filmmakers interested in adding documentary theater supernatural nature. It emphasizes on authenticity and social critique, sets it apart from more conventional ghost stories. To our conclusion, Greystone Park is a haunting atmospheric explosion of both supernatural horror and the dark history of mental health treatment. Its authentic setting combined with a commitment to really makes it compelling watch for horror fans interested in haunted location and psychological terror. While it may not revolutionize the genre, it's effective of clear vision, historical context, and immersive filmmaking have cemented its place as a noteworthy entry in the realm of haunted asylum horror. Let's talk about more. And if we talk about Greystone Park, the ultimate in-depth review of facts and analysis. We will start with the introduction. Greystone Park is a 2012 found footage horror film directed by scene stone blending elements of supernatural horror, social critique, and psychological thriller, filmed entirely on location within the abandoned Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital in New Jersey. The film aims to evoke authentic fear rooted in both real-world history and urban legend. The film explores themes of madness, trauma, institutional neglect, and the supernatural using a documentary style that immerses viewers into its haunting, recurring setting. If we talk about historical context of Greystone Park Hospital. If we talk about origins and purpose, we talk about founded in 1826. Greystone Park Hospital served as a mental health asylum for over 130 years. It was initially designed as a state-of-the-art facility for the mentally ill, housing thousands of patients over the decades. The hospital was part of a large wave of mental health institutions in the United States, often characterized by overcrowding and inhuman treatment. We talk about controversies and dark legacy. Numerous reports documented abuse, neglect, and experimental treatment that violated patients' rights. The facility became notorious for overcrowding, patients mistreatment, and tragic deaths include six suicides and medical stories of ghost sighting, unexplained phenomena, and paranormal activity at the site have persisted for decades. And if we talk about closure and abandonment, the hospital officially closed in 2008 following decades of declaring patients' numbers and shifting mental health policies. The site was left in a state of decay with abandoned buildings, rusted equipment, and graffiti covered walls. It became a popular location for urban explorers, paranormal investigators, and filmmakers seeking authentic haunted setting. Our legends and paranormal lore. Local legends are of costly partial disembodied voices and mysterious footsteps echoing through the tree corridors. Farmer staff and visitors have reported seeing shadow figures resembling farmer persons or staff members. These stories inspired the supernatural elements in the film. Our plot summary and narrative structure. The work begins with the typical found footage setup. A group of young paranormal investigators and documentary filmmakers arrive at the hospital armed with cameras, flashlights, and a sense of curiosity. Their goal is to explore the abandoned hospital, document supernatural phenomenon, and uncovers its dark secrets. Talk about key scenes and background, scene one arrival and exploration. The team enters the hospital capturing shots of the exterior and the desolate interior. The atmosphere is tense with creaking floors, peeling paint, and broken windows. The initial reactions are casual with some skepticism about paranormal activity. If we talk about scene 2, first unexplained phenomenon, they start hearing strange noises, whispering, footsteps, and distant screams. Shadow flickers in the periphery of the camera lens, creating a sense of unease. If you talk about three supernatural manifestations, apparitions of former patients or staff appear, fleeting sometimes as deserted faces or shadowy figures. Talk about disembodied voice says whisper warning or please, adding to the supernatural tension. And talk about scene for psychological breakdown. As the night progresses, member of the team begins to experiences hallucinations, paranoia, and fear, accusation, and conflicts emerge, reflecting the mental anguish the hospital once housed. And if we talk about the climax and escape, the supernatural forces intensify causing chaos, violence, or possession. The survivor desperately tried to flee, capturing their descent into madness on camera. Not all escaped, some critics are overtaken or driven to insanity. We talk about scene 6. Aftermath and ambiguous ending, the film concludes with haunting images of the survivor's frantic escape, leaving viewers questioning what was real and what was hallucination. If you talk about themes and symbolism, madness and reality, the hospital functions as a symbol of mental illness, an environment where reality becomes deserted. Supernatural phenomena are manifestations of supernatural guilt or unresolved grief. We talk about institutional abuse and social neglect. The film critically examines the history of mental health institutions, highlighting abuse, neglect, and unethical treatment. It suggests that the horror within the hospital are both supernatural and socio-political metaphors. We talk about guilt, trauma, and unresolved past. Apparitions and ghostly figures represent unresolved guilt and trauma, both personal and collective. The hospital's ghosts are the physical embodies of pain, suffering, and social failure. If we talk about fear of the unknown and death, the film taps into primal fears of death, the afterlife, and unseen force lurking in abandoned places. Talk about decay and ruin as symbol. The physical decay of the city mirrors moral decay, mental deterioration, and social neglect. And if we talk about technical and artistic elements, first talk about cinematography, shot entirely in natural light and with handheld cameras and creating a raw immersive experience, use of shadow, flickering lights and decayed architecture enhances the horror atmosphere. If we talk about sound design, ambient sounds, dripping water, distant thunder, echoes, build tension, whispering voice, screams, and sudden noises are employed to startle viewers. If we talk about editing and pacing, the editing emphasizes sound with rapid cuts during supernatural encounters and slow sequences to build suspense. The pacing is deliberate, allowing tension to escalate gradually. We talk about social effects and makeup. Practice effects include ghostly apparition, shadow figures, and decay effect. The supernatural visuals are subtle, relying on shadow and lighting to evoke fear rather than overt CGI. We talk about critical reception and audience response. While Greystone Park did not achieve mainstream blockbuster success, it developed a dedicated following among horror fans, especially those interested in haunted location and social commentary. Augustine's authentic setting, atmospheric tension, realistic portrayal of decay, effective sound design. If we talk about weakness, predictable plot points, shaky camera work causing disorientation, limited development. Some critics felt it relied too heavily on jumpscares. The film is appreciated for its attempt to combine social critics with supernatural horror, making it stand out for more superficial haunted house movies. If we talk about in depth and behind the scene insights, Firstly, let's talk about filming location and authenticity. The entire film was shot inside the actual Greystone Park Hospital, which was still in semi-derelict state during filming. The crew obtained special permits and navigated real hazards such as unstable floors, exposed wiring, and more. Talk about using real decay and graphite added authenticity, making it harder for viewers to distinguish effect from reality. We talk about director, season, and inspiration. Stone aimed to craft a horror film that was both terrifying and meaningful. He sought to explore themes of mental health, social neglect, and unresolved trauma through supernatural allegories. We talk about connection to paranormal or the supernatural elements are inspired by actual reports from explorers and former staff who claim to witness ghostly figures and unexplained phenomenon. Some scenes pay homage to urban legends surrounding the hospital. We talk about production and challenges. Filming in the hospital posed safety risks, including structural instability, broken glass, and more. The crew worked at night to maximize atmosphere, which added logistical difficulties. We talk about cultural and social commentary. The film's hardly teaches the historical values of mental health institutions echoing real-world stories of neglect and mistreatment. It questions whether the supernatural manifestation are echoes of past suffering. We talk about audience and cult status. The film gained a cult following among horror enthusiasts and paranormal investigators. It realism, the and social critique attracted viewers seeking more than just scares. We talk about influence and similar films. Sister Nine, Azalim, and the Talking of Deeper arrogance share thematic similarities. Talk about unlike typical horror movies, Greystone Park emphasizes atmosphere, realism, social critique, symbolism, and thematic elements. Decay and ruins represent the moral and spiritual decays of the institutions and social society. Ghostly figures embody unresolved trauma, guilt, and social neglect. Dark corridors and empty rooms symbolizes isolation, fear of death, and the unknown. We talk about legacy and cultural impact. The film's emphasizes on authentic influence. Subsequent horror filmmakers interested in blending documentary style with supernatural themes. And if we talk about legacy and cultural impact, the film's emphasizes on authenticity, influence, subsequence of filmmakers interested in blending documentary style with supernatural themes. It contributed to the genre of haunted asylum films with a social conscience. Without extended scene analysis and interpretation. The first encounters the initial whispering and filming in light serve as destabilize the supernatural presence, echoing reports from real explorers. These early events symbolizes the thin boundary between the living and the dead, and the haunted history of the hospital. If we talk about the shadow figures, the fleeting shadow figures reassemble the spirits of former patients or staff. symbolizing unresolved trauma. Their quick appearance evokes feelings of helplessness and fear, hallucinations, and psychological deterioration. Talk about character hallucinations, reflecting their inner fears and guilt, emphasizing the film's theme of mental instability. For example, one character sees a ghostly figures that resemble her love and symbolizing unresolved grief. The final sequence, the chaotic escape scene, symbolizes a descent into madness with supernatural forces overtaking rationalities. The ambiguous ending leaves viewers pondering whether the survivor escapes the supernatural or merely entered a new realm of torment. Concluding thoughts, Greystone Park stands as a haunting exploration of haunted space, mental health, and social neglect. Its commitment to realism combined with supernatural storytelling creates a unique experience that is both terrifying and thought provoking. While it may not be perfect in terms of plot originality or technical execution, its authenticity, social commentary, and immersive if we talk about concluding thoughts, Christian Pakistan as haunting exploration of haunted space, mental health, and uh, social neglect. Its commitment to realism combined with supernatural storytelling creates a unique experience that is both terrifying and thought provoking. While it may not be perfect in terms of plot originality or technical Um, Execution, its authentic social commentary and immersive atmosphere make it a significant film in the haunted asylum subgenre. If we talk about further recommendation and related topics, talk about similar films, Season 9 2001, The Taking of Deborah Logan, 2014, Asylum, 2015, Grave Encounter. If we talk about books and documentaries, investigations into haunted asylums and mental health abuses, documentary about Greystone Park hospitals. We talk about decision topics, the ethics of filming in real haunted location, the role of social neglect in shaping ghost stories, how horror reflects social fears and issues. If we talk about more, if we talk about Greystone Parks, the most extensive analyzed and reviewed. Start with introduction on that legacy in film and reality. Greystone Park is a haunting atmospheric found footage horror film that blurs the lines between documentary, realism, and supernatural terror. Directed by Stone, the film seeks to immerse viewers in the decaying remains of the real Greystone Park psychiatric hospital located in New Jersey, which carries a long dark history intertwined with mental health controversies, ghost story, and urban legend. The film is not merely a horror film, it's a reflection on social neglect, mental illness, and unresolved trauma, woven into a narrative that aims to evoke fear rooted in real world horrors, supernatural legends. We talk about historical background of Greystone Park Hospital and in-depth overview founding and purpose. It stabilizes in 1876 as New Jersey State Lunatic Asylum. Number 3, Greystone was initial ownership and progressive mental health facility. It was part of a broader movement in the late 19th century to provide human treatment to the mental ill. Though in practice many such institutions become overcrowded, underfunded, and efficient. And if we talk about open and expensive, over the years the hospital expanded its facility, incorporating various architectural styles, including Gothic Revival influence, which contributed to its eerie appearance. It housed thousands of patients over its operational life from the late 19th century through the mid 20th century. If we talk about controversies and abuses, the hospital gained notoriety for overcrowding, neglect, and mistreatment of patients. Parts of experimental treatments include the insulin, shock therapy, lobotomies, and other invasive procedures often conducted without proper consent. We talk about allegations uh, of physical abuse, neglect, and even death have been leading to reputation for being a place of suffering. Talk about closure and abandonment. The institution closed in 2008 due to decentralization policies, budget cuts, and shifts toward outpatient mental health care. We talk about and its abandonment left behind a sprawling complex of decaying buildings with many structures left to rot, covered in graffiti and haunted by stories of the past. Paranormal lore and legends. The site has long been associated with ghost stories, spectral figures, and disembodied voices and unexplained phenomenon. After urban explorers and paranormal investigators have claimed to witness shadowing figures, strange noises, and feelings of intense unease. These legends inform the atmosphere and thematic elements of Greystone Park. Talk about the film's narrative and structural breakdown, introduction and setup. The film opens with a shaky handheld camera capturing the approach of a group of five young explorers, film students, paranormal investigators, and urban explorers who enter the hospital grounds. Their goal is to document paranormal activity and explore the site's history. So it was review of this movie. I hope you like it. If there was any mistake, and then I apologize for that. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for being. Goodbye for now. Let's meet on. Goodbye.